Once you've prioritized your solution, you need to determine course of action. You need to determine how you want to act on that issue, right? You have a choice. You can either remediate, i.e. fix the problem, right? Or you can mitigate, as I mentioned, modifying your application, or you can accept the risk. You will use your system knowledge, you use your knowledge of the system, the knowledge of the implementation, and the knowledge of the source that you're using to determine your strategy, whether or not you remediate, mitigate, or do nothing and accept the risk. Scanning into most customers focus expectedly on the most critical CVEs while taking into consideration the relevancy of the low and the medium and the high CVEs. So that's quite representative. Expecting our semi-partner or commercial Linux vendor to address the CVEs, that's good. It's good for Wind River, for example. One thing that you need to make sure that you manage to, though, is your semi-partner or your commercial Linux vendor only is providing updates to the packages that come with their distribution. You want to find the intent here would be to find a partner that will also take on the additional packages that you've included in your source distribution that are required by your application. So that custom content that you've added to the commercial Linux distribution also needs to be scanned and remediated or mitigated. Not doing anything, again, this might actually be an okay answer depending on your solution. If your solution doesn't have any exposure to the big bad world, that might be a very relevant course of action. And then needing help with this, you know what? It's a very complicated process. So the great thing is that there's lots of partners out there that I'll get into that can help. Let's get into a little bit more detail on what is remediation versus mitigation. Remediation is where you resolve the vulnerability either through a backporting of a fix from another version, or you uprev your solution to a more current version of that package that does not have that issue in it. Alternatively, you mitigate, which is to make it less harsh or hostile to your environment, reducing the likelihood of the impact the vulnerability may have. This can be done by either understanding the threat vector and either removing the impact or by putting something in the way. I kind of gave the example of the XML parser where your application throws in a check to make sure that the offending instruction or the offending snippet won't enable the XML parser to get into that CVE or that vulnerability. Alternatively, you can make a configuration change, adding additional protections, etc. So what do you do once you've decided that you found a fix? So based on the package version, most scanners will correlate a CVE and then be able to present that CVE information. And if you look at the NVD NIST website, you'll often see that a fix is available. If you look at the picture, there's a little checkbox that says there's a solution, and even provide a link to a solution. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a link to a project that actually has the source for it that you can then leverage. But more often than not, that source is for a version that's not the same as your version. So in this case, we did the scan originally and it shows curl version 7.44. However, the fix is in curl version 7.84. So more often than not, you'll likely have to backport, if that's the course of action you want to take, from 7.84 to 7.44. So depending on the age of what you are maintaining, it could be that for at least that 80% of the affected CVEs, you'll need to backport the fix from a later version into your version. Alternatively, you can uprev it, right? So you can take curl version 7.84 and put that version into your source solution. So you can download the package and port the whole package into your solution. However, if you uprev, you'll need to uprev the supporting packages that go along with that one. So if you take curl as an example, and depending on how you use curl, you could actually have to take in another 14 external packages or libraries and incorporate them into your solution. One thing that you need to know is each one of those might have another list of dependencies, and the list goes on and on and on. So more often than not, at least my history or my experiences says that the most common course of action is to backport the fix. So understand what the fix is that was done in the current version, and then incorporate as best you can, or incorporate that modification into your version while still maintaining all the dependencies and all the supporting packages. That way your churn is as minimal as possible. The good news is that in the open source and your partner community, there are many, many experienced developers and security experts who can help identify and fix these security flaws, and have done it for a lot of different platforms. But I'll get into that later on as well. So, as I mentioned, leveraging a partner. So there are partners that are able to do this. It's more often than not very common to collaborate with a company that has the security experience and rigorous compliance certifications, i.e. the ISO certifications, that enables you to get a fix, right, that can avoid the problems associated with having to do it a one-off every single time. So partners like Wind River already maintain multiple versions of Linux with a variety of kernels and user-space packages. With this experience, your partner, the partner of your choice, can often already has a fix ready that is been validated and tested and proven on your version. Okay? The partner should have a good issue tracking solution, as well as a very good CI/CD pipeline in place where they can take they've updated the CVE, it's gone through their smoke testing, it's gone through their integration testing, it's gone through their nightly, weekly, monthly regression testing. Okay. As I mentioned, partners have often fixed or will be fixing most of the CVEs that are interest of you, not only in their own products, but also those of your customers. From your partner's experiences comes speed and accuracy. These partners also have a history of ensuring that their maintenance of the systems that cannot fail. Okay, so leverage a partner, your semi vendor or your commercial solution partner, for not only the fixes in the standard solution that they provide, but also possibly for the custom packages that you've included in your solution. So one of the biggest things that you've got is the risk, right? Which we've talked about at detail. You've prioritized, you've assessed it, you've assessed the vulnerabilities in your system, you've prioritized what those fixes are, you've decided to act either through remediation or through mitigation. At the end of the day, there is a risk, and you have to accept that risk, right? You have to understand whether or not the probability is there, whether or not the fix has been correctly fixed, and the speed at which you've actually been able to find out whether you're vulnerable, incorporated the solution, and then deployed the solution in the field. And as you can see from the numbers that I presented here, the impact can be significant. So you'll need to evaluate this as you go along. And the key thing is work with a partner, work with somebody, do the work that's necessary so you can minimize that risk as much as possible.